Animals have demonic spirits. Can animals be used by evil spirits? Can animals be used by angels? Can animals be used by God? You better believe it 100%. Animals are like an empty slate. In the Bible, it says that mankind sinned against God. It never said animals did. But some animals, throughout they call it the cycle of the consistency of what animals evolve to, and so on and so forth. When they do studies of animals in nature, they discover that a lot of times they're way more kinder and compassionate, way more aware. Like even some people have called them sentients, right? Their sensitivity is very high. Some people even said that they've done studies and they said that animals can see 5 dimensional, right? Especially I think it was dogs they were experimenting on. Cats even. Cats can pick up stuff. There's no coincidence. And when animals see stuff in the environment, you'll see them start watching. Some people have recorded videos where they see animals watching and something in a room. They start recording and they notice a vapor or an orb or something in the picture. It's not coincidental, right? We're not alone in our world. We like to believe we are. The human race loves to flatter themselves. Oh boy, mankind is so corrupted with the flattery. It's not even funny. Just so much so they build themselves into such a big hurrah state. They're so full of it. It's so full. As you kind of become more and more humbled by God, you kind of like sit back. And you kind of go, that is just so vain. You know what I'm saying? Because you think it's like, don't take yourself so seriously. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Um, when God created mankind, he said to mankind after he created the animals, he created mankind to basically take dominion, right? Now in God's way, not their way, with God's nature. And God was very well pleased when he saw when Adam and Eve were naming the animals and the tending to them, and he was teaching them about his love. The thing is that mankind sinned, animals never did. They were never brought into the curse the way the human race have. They were brought under the curse, not into it, right? Some people say, well, let's just dispute on that one. Well, just leave it now, okay? It's not dispute. I want to dispute about this. And just listen where I'm going. If you'd like to, if you'd like to, I'd love it. If you keep on listening, great. Or give me an ear, right? Um, Fast forward to this time we're living in 2025. I've seen, and I thought I was seeing things. And when I had my little dog, he really began to show me a lot of stuff about sensitivity, about things he was noticing, and I would experience it after the fact. I would see things happen, and he was warning me. So I began to want to grow into that awareness, and I had some of it, but not the way he did. And I really began to become very respectful of him, not as an animal, but as like thinking, wow, like these beings are actually, these creatures actually on our plane. There's something going on with them that we people take for granted, like, and they're a national treasure. They really are. And it comes so all natural to them. There's nothing but ego or looking for any kind of attention. They're just so all natural, the things that they will do and the things the way they are, their behavior, the way they can pick up that you have something going on with you before you came in the door, and they've already had certain things going on that they wouldn't have done before, right? Because they knew you're having let's say a bad day, and they're waiting there to give you. Even before you showed up, they already had your energy figured out. They had your message figured out. That's not the word for energy, message, right? Now, in every person's environment, and the Bible really doesn't go deeply into it. From what I've experienced, I believe that some people have more presence, and I'm talking other worldly beings in their environment than, let's say, other people do, right? And animals can pick up on that, and they can not and where I'm going with this is not only pick up on it, that dependent upon the environment, we're getting back to where mankind was made to take dominion, even to have dominion over the animals, right? Is that that environment is charged with a certain level of authority, okay? And if the person who's in the environment that has the animal is allowing and in aware of to a certain level and even attending to dark energies, dark information, that animal will mimic the owner. In the process of doing so, the very demons, the evil spirits that could move, you see how what they do is how they control people. They just have people there. They're just close by with people, not necessarily residing inside. Yes and no. But all they have to do is to be, the person has given them enough allowance that they are able to just change the person with just a single thought. And they can then enter the person and manifest through that person to do harm to a person based upon that person's willingness to entertain dark emotions and vindictiveness and revengefulness and bitterness and unforgiveness and being able to strike out and look. And by the way, they're able to convince people that they are so good, such good liars. They're able to convince people that whatever action they're doing is so justified, even if they're harming a person. Now, where the animal comes in, that animal can be used by the person to hurt somebody. All that person begins to think is, I don't really like that person. They could not like a person in their environment because that person could have a certain amount of God full information that makes those demons afraid of them being there. And since the guy knows somewhere deep down inside that it's a social mistake to do any harm to that person, could be anybody, right? The dog can become the servant. Okay, I've seen dogs switch up. I've been with some people. I remember one lady I was renting from. Oh my God, she was an absolute vicious, evil human being. But I remember I was coming in one morning to go to work, and her cats. She left, and I think she had 2 or 3 cats. They were all sitting there at the bottom of the stairs, hissing at me, and the most vicious way. I thought, oh my dear God, I was like, oh, this is fucking scary. This is freaky stuff. And they would look like there was something coming from them. These weren't just ordinary cats anymore. And I could feel, I tell you that when it said the hair on your head or whatever, how much hair in my head, but or on my back even, but you know what I mean, right? Your hair begins to crawl. You feel like that. Excuse me. The saddest thing about an animal, and there's always, see, God works in the realm of jurisdiction. You know, He will not invade people's jurisdiction, even if they don't want God in the environment. He will respect that until they die. Then they're on his turf. They're on his property. They're still on God's property. Maybe he's respectful of their lifeline, their lifetime. He respects that. They don't want him. Nevertheless, they will have its consequences, right? Because he will pull back from them, right? In the process of doing so, he also turns away from the animals. Okay? The Bible says that the curse of the Lord is on the house of the wicked. And if the curse of the Lord is on the house of the wicked, everything in the environments is also cursed. So is the animals. Yep, so is the animals. Now, here's the thing that people do. Some people will go and adopt animals, and don't get me wrong. I love animals. I love to have tons of money go unload the shelters, and I think that. Let me just backtrack a little bit. I do think that after an animal is either left to a shelter or getting away from that human being, the covering slowly dissipates, the invisible covering, and the animal becomes open source. So if someone else was to take the animal can now be changed and escape the hold of if there's evil spirits on the animal, right? Um, the thing is that if a person is not wise enough about the kind of animal they're bringing in and the history of the animal into the home, the animal can turn on them if the animal so remembered the owner and remembered what the owner disliked. And if you resemble what the owner disliked, guess what? The animal will watch you. The animal will hate you. The animal will be very difficult. And we're sold a social bill of goods about all this humanitarianism, which is good. I've seen this, and I've seen some animals do. And I know a person who runs a rescue, and I've seen some of the animals where they come with curses on them, and they will just out of the blue turn, and you go into prayer, and God will open up your eyes and show you something going on with a doorway or something where the animal was, and something going on with the history, an imprint, a residual, and you have to pray against. And I've done this. I've seen it. Trust me in this. It works. Because God hears prayers. When you pray a residual, whatever the history is with an animal, that's where people come in. That's why faith, societies who had a lot of faith back when were more thriving than societies of today. We have a whole mishmash, and we have also a mix-upness with the true faith. That's why it's gone blatantly crazy. People who say they're even Christians are experiencing some pretty tough experiences because they're mixing messing with other things, or they bring curses into their home. They bring animals who have curses. They don't understand these things because they are too confident. Being too confident is a very stupid way to be in life. One ought to be very, how can I put it? Not confident. One ought to be very faithful in God. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Having true faith means to be able to see into the spiritual world. Okay? If something is blatantly sitting before you and it's doing what it's doing, you better understand that something is happening with what's going on right in front of you. It's right there, staring you in the face. And when animals do what they do, okay, is because of the carelessness of people who have adopted them. And it's some people say, well, this is really unfair. The thing is because animals are so innocent in so many ways, right? I mean, God, you would think that, okay, why doesn't God do this and that? Well, he does do this and that through people. That's how he works. He does not overstep what he has stepped. He is set in place. He has set these heavenly boundaries in place. Even human will are heavenly boundaries. He set that in place. Okay, so you're not going to overrun. It's legalities involved here. When animals are being taken over, and even if, when animals are in good environments, angels, the Bible says the angel of the Lord encamps around them who fear him, who respectful of him and his ways. Angels. When animals have a good about them, it's either because their history has been good. As sure people said their breed. I've experienced peaceful breeds being totally evil. But I do believe this 100% influences everything. I can guarantee that people who have issues should never ever be allowed to adopt an animal, because they're going to possess that animal. And they're going to, what's so sad about it? I remember hearing about this one idiotic woman, this glubby looking ding dong, excuse my language, and I call it that because it's so upsetting. She had a whole bunch of animals. And the things about the devil works, he really does privilege his ridiculous children. He gives them so much that there's no room for correction in their life. You would think if correction would be there, at least that they'd come to their senses, or at least stop them from having the kind of power that they have. Anyway, she was taking care of all these animals, and they discovered dog remains in a freezer. She was abusing them. She was doing all these crazy things. She had a bunch of animals that people took to daycare. And people could be so stupid. It blows me away. A nice little smiley, little cheery little woman face is going to make you feel all good. You know what she did? The people were gone for weeks on end, and when the animal services came in, discovered she was abusing the animal. Some of the animals were so out of it that they couldn't get hold of the owners. And you know what the animal shelter did, which is not a sad thing. And to me, it's a bit of a difficult topic to get on. They put some of them down. She caused all of that. That's this idiot. That's what she did. By her very jackass life, she caused all of that to happen. So where I'm going with this, and I'm going to end with this. People are playing a major part to what happens to an animal, what happens with an animal, and what happens inside of an animal. Guaranteed. No if ands, or buts. And I've yet to meet a good owner that has an unadjusted animal. And if they do, they probably haven't learned how to give some of the energy over, but it's only a matter of time where the atmosphere will change that animal. And it all depends upon quite a few things, but just this. Is there the presence of demonic spirits or activity in the environment? Or is God's goodness in the environment? It does equal the results. Have a good day and do like and subscribe.